Near, rip a hole in the sun. Welcome to Cum Paude. Why would you cum soft when you can cum louder? Yeah.
Welcome to Cum Laude. Cum Paude. Hey, baby, we are back for our week 3 edition of this 2024 Fantasy Football Public Honors College season podcast. Joined here by, of course, you already know, me, hermano, the Firmalicious extraordinaire, moonlighting occasionally as Arrivederci Kilo Third, the Dame Judy Dench. How's it going, Fermi?
It's going great. It's been a great year so far for the Dames. So riding that high right now and excited to get yet another podcast out here. It is Saturday where we are in the booth today. We are together this time. Don't expect patched together like we had last week, but we do what we got to do here at What Studio. And I'm looking forward to laying down another one together with my co-host live.
Yeah, it's nice to be, not back in the same studio, but at least back on the same Zoom rather than doing kind of the piece and patch. I mean, we were obviously jet setting and dealing with time zone differences, all of those sorts of things. So good to see. Who you got in the background there?
Yeah, myself, and Joe Boo I've got right here, bringing me a lot of good juju this year. That is Joe Boo wearing the mullet that was cut off a few weeks ago to start this.
That's the actual mullet.
Indeed, yeah. That's Maher, Brett Maher.
There we go. Hell yeah, that's Joe Poo. That is so. All right, man. Well, what do you say? We had a hell of a week last week. Even some tastier matchups, I think, this week, and I think we're probably looking forward to after this week, maybe discussing a little bit of our pecking order, maybe some power rankings after this week once we really see the lay of the land. So what do you say we get right into it with the fastest 7? Hit it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and cue that music. All right, so last week we had John Wilkes Tooth facing off at the Cum sale. Wilkes Tooth just dominated here, 131-93. There was a nice bounce back week from Joe Burrow, solid play from Chris Godwin, and Calvin Ridley showing up doing what we thought he'd do there in Tennessee. Again, just solid all around for this squad. Cum sale coming up short this week, got that week 1 win, but it's looking like this team just needs everybody to participate for a good win to happen. Got some good plays out of some of the young talent that's been drafted there, but it's really a question mark on LGBTQ.B1 there and Caleb Williams of whether or not this team will be able to put up points to win. We'll see if they can go forward next week, but John Wilkes does get the win. Other game, a little bit of a surprise here. Laporta Potties gets a win, gets in the win column against Doge City, gets the win 117-106. The young guns on this Porta Potty team do get it done with Devin Otshane, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith, and Jigba getting it done. They opened up hot Thursday with Otshane and the Bills D to get a good early lead. And, Doge City, their running backs did the job. They got good points, but they went dual tight end here this past week between Kyle Pitts and Isaiah Lakely, and they just weren't able to put up points there and did not get that big giant week out of Jake Moody that everybody saw in week 1. So Doge City does fall to 0-2. Then we had a rematch of the championship from last year, Pubic Medusas and Beth's Healthy Twins. Medusas leaves no doubt, wins 122-93. Got the job done. Kaimi Fairbairn, this is the year of the kicker for everybody. Fairbairn puts up 20-plus points, and they had their Derrick Henry and Jordan Mason filling in very well with the running backs. Tony Pollard getting good points there for the Medusas. Just a solid game, 122. That's a really good benchmark for a win here in this league. And then on the other side, Beth's Healthy Twins, low scoring all around except for Kyler Murray, who looked great. So that's a positive outlook for Healthy Twins if Kyler's bounce back. And Zach Charbonnet, who had a good fill-in week there while Kenneth Walker is out. Walker is likely to be out for maybe another week, maybe a few more. So Charbonnet filled in, but just not a lot of support from that squad. So Medusas does get that win. The next game was a total blowout. It was all hail ESPN at the Bermuda Talon Gulls. We kind of saw this one coming. Talon Gulls gets the one 166 to 105. Not a terrible week there from ESPN, 105. We've said it in past pod days that if you can eclipse 100 points, then you stand a chance to win a game. It's typically not enough, but that's really a good low end to come in on to try to get that win in case your teammate doesn't put it up. But they lost Cooper Kupp this week, and Mahomes has just not been the fantasy star that he's been in previous years. He's doing enough with the refs to win their actual games, but not enough to win fantasy here. So ESPN does not get that surprise win and not even able to cover a big 36.5 point spread. But massive output all across the board from the Gulls. They were only a few points short from getting the weekly payout here. That's 2 straight weeks in a row that they've been close to the top in weekly scoring. And this team is just, they're dominant all across the board. There's not really a weak link to look at right now. So keep looking for the Talon Gulls to keep on their solid run. So talking about the team that won the week last week, the Dame Judy Dobbinses. Dame Judy Dench here, taking down Minnesota Sword Dicks with a big 170 to 93. Huge week from Alvin Kamara. Thank you very much, Johns Bussy. 4 touchdowns, 40 points. But other big names did show up for this team with DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams. Again, Johns Bussy, thank you very much. And holding on to J.K. Dobbins after multiple massive injuries to a running back. Who could have thought this was going to happen? Probably jinxing it right now. But J.K. is a leading rusher in this league right now, put up really good points all across the board for the Denches to get 170. And then on the other side, Scrody Sword Dicks. Justin Jefferson did what he could, but just not getting that running back support here with Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Tyjae Spears, just not getting enough points out there. 93 points, respectable. Again, try to get up to 100 just to get that win. Judy Dench does get the victory. Moons over my hammy at Big Dak Energy. Big Dak gets this done. 98 to 74. There we are. We're talking about get 100 to get the win. They didn't need it this time as Hammy only puts up 74 points. Didn't look like anybody wanted to score for the Hammies this week. Brian Robinson was the top scorer with 14 points. Weak play from Josh Allen. Some of those other big names that are on this team. Hammy's probably feeling let down right now with some of the cast and getting hit with some injuries, losing Pacheco for a few weeks. But we're talking about the winner here. Big Dak got the win. All you got to do is score more points than your opponent. Got it done. Bounce back this week from Amon-Ra, looking good, and Breece Hall leading the scoring there to get that job done. Big Dak does move forward and gets the win. Last game that we had last week was the Bottom Dwellers. Johns Bussy at the Jumbo Winners. Johns Bussy is doing everything they can to tank like a pro. And they're saying to us after what we saw between weeks here is that if you score points for my team, I don't want you. So get rid of it, Gino. We're going to trade you to the team that just beat us. But Jumbo Winners does get that win, 99 to 63. This is a really good, fun conversation. 99 points and gets the win. Talking about 100, 99 was enough. 99 actually would have beat 6 other teams. So while other people are saying Brian's team can't win games, clearly they're playing against Johns Bussy. They got the win, but they could have beaten 6 of you other folks out there with that Jumbo Winner lineup. And now they've got Geno Smith. Look out. But Malik Neighbors had a fantastic game. Welcome to the Public Honors College of Fantasy Football League, proving that even though Daniel Jones is your quarterback, you can still score fantasy points. Midland performance from everybody else. But again, got the win and could have beat 6 other teams. It was a good week. Good shakeouts, like you're saying. Maybe we'll get to see it this week, a little bit last week. Maybe we'll get to start to see who the cream of the crop is. Pretty clear cut that Medusas is still here to play, still here to win. And the Talon Gulls. I think the Talon Gulls make a huge statement last week with another massive scoring effort, and we'll see if they can do that again here in week 3. It's week 2 in the wraps, fastest 7 minutes. Let's turn it back over for week 3 Nick's picks.
Buddy, fastest 7. I think you got it done in 6:48. Loved the pace of that one. And I'm telling you, man, there's some teams that can put up 200 points in this league, which is really impressive. Medusa's hanging around there with what is always the number that can win you a week, hitting that like 120 type. You score 100, you win. Medusa's like, fuck that, I'll score 120 and still win. But compared to, the Talon Gulls and the DJDs, baby, I mean, Medusa's a little bit of a snake in the grass, man, maybe being overlooked. Certainly don't overlook the champ. What a bunch of teams we've got. Let's look forward, though, man. We've got some matchups that we are excited about, and the first one is a pick'em. We have a couple pick'ems this week, or close to it, anyhow. If had we made such picks maybe before the Thursday night game. But we've got the DJ Deers, mi hermano, my co-host, heading up against the Tooth, the assassins of John Wilkes Tooth. We got a 50-50, man. Coin flip. The Tooth at 1-1, coming off of a nice win. Dame Judy, as we know, riding the Camara train to victory. In the pick'em, Dame Judy's run keeps on running, baby. I think J.K. Dobbins, there may be some periphery issues, at least statistically, probably some regression coming back, but he's proven that he doesn't need J.K. Dobbins necessarily to be a 25-point scorer. A 12-point scorer is probably all he needs out of him, and having the other guys kind of carry the load. DJ gets it done on the money line. Kaguga, lock it up. Moving forward to Laporta Potties, getting 22.5. Made a deal this week. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. Plugged a major gap in the lineup, but also gave away a high leverage fantasy scorer who's been reliable for years. Plugged that hole immediately with the number one overall pick, and his team seems to have at least gotten a little bit more balanced. 22.5, even with the ability of Bermuda to put up points, is too many points. Give me the Porta Potties. Give me Sam Laporta after the trade to really show off and show out. They're going to cover it. I might sprinkle a little, but 22.5, way too many points. I expect this to be a 10-point game or less. Lock that shit up. Let's take a look at the Minnesota Swordicks against father-in-law, the Jumbo winners. Well, I mean, I can tell you, as part of this, I wouldn't be surprised if a player gets somehow traded during the middle of the game if things are not necessarily going well for the commish. Does Geno Smith make the winners better? I think he does. Is Amir White a reliable RB2? I think he is. Is he the winner's RB1? I think he is. And that's a little bit problematic. 19.5 is a lot of points to cover for the Swordicks, but they're going to get it done. I expect actually a big week this week out of Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. Cover the big number. Give me the Swordicks minus 19.5. The Pubic Medusas, last year's champs versus this year's supposed to be number one overall pick. Tank for Frank kind of thing. I don't know who Frank is, but he's going to be the number one overall pick. The Pubic Medusas laying 54.5. Oh, like almost 7+ tutties. This is a lot of points. And John's Pussy would be happy if it covered. He doesn't care. He wants to be in last. He's going for it. He's got his best lineup on the field. Justice Hill after a contract extension. That's a big deal. Contract talks for Jay Hill this week. Maybe that leads to a 3-touchdown performance that helps cover that spread. He goes as the Packers go. And I think the Packers have a chance to have a pretty solid week this week, especially if Jordan Love ends up playing. He's going to cover this number. No questions asked. Cook, kaboom. No way. The Medusas cover 54.5. Move into the next game of all hail ESPN against the Moonhams. All hail ESPN favored. First time we've seen that this year, if memory serves, and potentially maybe the only time we're going to see that this year, other than a potential late season Blissey matchup in the consolation ladder. But the 8.5 seems like a lot. Trying to figure out exactly why there's so much favoritism, and I think it's Rashee Rice getting a little extra love in the projections from the fantasy algorithm. It's about the only thing I can think of. I don't expect necessarily anything other than potentially a Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes regression back towards being QB1 overall and his number one target being the reason for this. No fucking way Dan gets it done. Sorry, Dan. This is a clear cover, and you know what? We're going money line. Moon's over my hammy is getting it done on the win, straight up across the board. But definitely give me plus 8.5. Doge City at the Cum Sale. We've already got one score on the board for Doge City. 0.3, giving a three tenths of a point here from Romandre 1000. Not a great start. This was a pick'em game heading into Thursday night. Now Doge City's catching 10.5. Whoa! No way. This is more than a touchdown game. This is going to be way too close for that. Give me Doge City plus 10.5. Lock that shit up. But money line, we ain't sprinkling it. Not a chance in hell. Doge City's going down this week. And to the last matchup, another one with a sub 10-point spread. We've got the Twins getting 8.5 here against Big Dak Energy. Big Dak Energy, we're waiting for that 170-point game, I think, and this week it could be loading up. We've got some favorable matchups. Especially with Breece Hall already on the board with a solid 16.3 points. Anthony Richardson, maybe a bounce back game. We know that he can put up 25 points, and some blow ups out of some of these receivers certainly could lead to that 150-point game. 8.5 is actually not enough in this one. I would move that line to 13.5 if it were me, but I'll take it at 8.5. You got to take what Vegas gives you here. Kaguga, lock up Big Dak minus 8.5. Nick's pick's been pretty good this year, Hermano. How we doing?
Yep, Nick's picks had a strong week last week. They're now up to 9-5 season out of 2 weeks. Really solid. And if we look at the preseason predictions from Arriva Verde Keelaturd, 8-6. 8-6 on the preseason. Now that is straight up money line. But hey, both of us in the green and making money here.
Yeah, the folks here at What Studios, no ball. We know ball here, and that's what we're proving. Excited to get that done. Had some shakeups this week, roster wise, right? I mean, it's good to see that off-season trade mojo is continuing into these first weeks. Teams getting a taste of what they have on their rosters and what their needs might be. That, when you coupled with some week 1 and week 2 injuries, has necessitated some trading going on. We had 2 really big ones, and then one that I think is an important one, and that's we'll start kind of at the bottom of that list first. Geno Smith for an early second round filled some needs, right?
That's right. Yeah. Brian is not happy with his quarterback room. He's got Matt Stafford, who's a solid play most weeks, but just didn't do anything last week. And that gets a sour taste in your mouth and makes you want to start looking around and get you at least a backup. So when you're streaming and you're trying to make that matchup decision, you've got a solid 1-2 punch there, and pays an early second round. John's Bussy not hesitating at all for that with the predictions that, I'm sorry, Brian, but it's looking like you're going to end towards the bottom of the barrel. But hey, maybe Geno changes that narrative for you. Maybe you're allowed to steal some more wins this year. We felt that way about the Cum Sale last year, and somehow they magically won enough games to get into the playoffs. So it could happen. Angels in the outfield style. Smart move for both teams.
Yeah, fills a need, good trade. We want to see more of those. I mean, that's the type of thing that managers are doing to try to make their teams better, both now and in the future. We had another one, though, from the Bussy, I believe. Popeye's girlfriend, I think, right?
Yep.
Olave
right.
oil.
Olave oil. Yeah, it did get moved. And that was a great time to move Olave. We're not really coming out playing real strong in week 1, so made that trade. This trade happened between week 1 and week 2. 2 first-round picks. There was Emmanuel Wilson from Green Bay, and I think another pick got thrown around there to make this one happen. But our commish went out and wanted to add another high-scoring potential wide receiver to that team that's already got Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill, and instantly Olave comes out in a better week in week 2, still quiet, probably about a cut hair short of a touchdown in that game, but just got called just short enough for Derek Carr to rush it in there. So there's a potential for that to have been 20 points instead of whatever it was, 12, 13, 14 for Olave. But 2 first-round picks, and what I see interesting there for the next trade that we're going to talk about is 2 first-rounders, the price for a star wide receiver, for a top-tier wide receiver. That feels like what got established. And let's move into that. Let's mold off of 2 first-round picks for Chris Olave. The next trade that happened, the big splash that happened this week, the 2 Knicks coming together. Jamar Chase, big name off the board. Big name off the board. That's a huge play there. And essentially it's a first-round draft pick in 2025. Sam Laporta, which is massive, coming in as looking into this season as being the next Kelsey, most likely, and for years to come. So I'm looking at Laporta almost like a first-round pick. And then there's, I think, a third-round future thrown in there. So it feels like 2 first-rounders for a really star-studded wide receiver is kind of the price that we're setting here in this league. But, hey, this was your team. This was your play. What's the motivation here? What's the risk? We all know you loved Sam Laporta, but we also know you love tight ends in general and have quite a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, seeing a opportunity to get a real top tier dynasty asset, still very young, coming off of some contract issues, so I think his value is depressed a little bit. He hasn't necessarily started the season super hot, and seeing the market that essentially the commissioner and the Bus were able to set on what it is for an elite wide receiver. And don't get it twisted, Chris Olave is the most talented wide receiver on a top 5 offense in the NFL. He is a legit dynasty wide receiver 1 for any squad. Jamar Chase is that one that's being drafted in the top 5 of every dynasty startup right now. Saw an opportunity where Nick Capogna, he's tight endless, right? I mean, he was trotting out Clay Aikens or something like that the week before, Grammy Award winner, but not really great over the middle. And Sam Laporta is his namesake. And so, yeah, it's giving up what was being drafted. Sam Laporta as the tight end 1 this year was certainly a lot for me to move on. And certainly somebody that was at least in 14 team leagues was getting a lot of first round consideration. You're right. It's two first round picks. I saw what I needed to see out of Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers as that kind of tandem for the Raiders. And I'm happy with the tight end room here moving forward. No sense having food on my plate that I can't eat. And so I think we got it done. Both teams got better, and baby, we're coming for the playoffs on purpose this year.
This is exciting. Yeah, we've been seeing the Cum Paude over the last 3 years, gaining draft picks, moving on talent, getting draft picks in, and now we're seeing it flip. It's really the turning of the rebuild right now when you're going to get the players for now. And what's great about Jamar is that he's going to be there for 10 more years, maybe more, being a wide receiver. So big move for both teams, filled that gap for Laporta, and just that first round pick is huge. Laporta Potty's had 2 first or maybe 3 first rounds this year. And now they're going to have at least 2 going into next year, likely to be early picks for his, and we'll see what the Cum Paude can do, where that value changes for that 2025 first rounder. But helping that team build. Mentioned earlier in the Knicks picks for week 3, Laporta Potty's really just, they need another running back. They need that supporting cast, and that's what you get in the drafts and in our summer draft is you get those running backs. If you got an early enough pick, you can get somebody that's going to hit the ground running like Devon Achane has done for this team. So great trades all around. It's exciting to see it. Hopefully that continues to shake up these teams. And as people maybe get a little nervous, we're only week 2, week 3 coming up here. Teams maybe getting nervous. It started a little rough out of the gate and they want to start moving on things. Maybe they're going to commit to next year, let's talk about some surprises. 2 weeks in, week 3, the big one that jumps out to me is Doge City. starting the year 0-2, maybe at risk of going 0-3 here. This was a solid team at the beginning of the year. I still think it's a solid team, and it just hasn't meshed together. That's what fantasy is. You can have good players, but if they're not clicking at the same time, you don't put up the points. Is it time to panic for anybody?
No, I don't think so. Even at 0-2, I mean, I guess I would obviously worry if I'm the Buss and I want to make the playoffs this year, given my team and how I've performed so far. But I think the teams that are at the bottom, who are in that 0-2, or even some that are 1-1, but are not really planning to be contenders this year. Of course, they're doing what they need to do. The teams who were expecting to perhaps be contenders but are in a little bit of rougher shape. All right, so let's look at Doge City at 0-2 and Moons over Miami, right? I mean, those are probably the two that we're talking about the most in this conversation. Doge is behind the 8 ball, but his team is solid. There's no reason, even if it goes to 0-3 this week, that he would start panicking. I mean, if he ends up at a 1-4 or something like that, it may be time to reconsider some things, maybe sell some assets and get ready for the following year. Same is true for old Wriggles Diggles over there, the Moons over Miami. Look, go to Denny's, get your belly full, get a shake. Things are going to be okay. Looking like for Doge and Moons, 230 total points against over the first 2 weeks, puts them pretty high up in that points against ranking too. Not to be outdone, however, by all hail ESPN, who's been just absolutely trashed by teams this year. Poor Dan, who's otherwise had a decent performance. Nope, no reason to panic as of now, but we'll revisit that question next week.
Right on. Yeah. So some other surprises that are popping up is the tight end game this year. There's been flashes by a few players week in and week out, but like Hunter Henry is the guy that puts it up last week. Where are the tight ends? Travis Kelce's down big time. Laporta has had a slow start. Your boy Brock Bowers, though, looking good. Again, flash in the pan here, but is the tight end position, is it dead? Is it just the way the game's being played this year? Same with quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot, or I guess maybe there's too much parity, I think, amongst the tight end position. Nobody's out there really blowing the doors off. I mean, and you're kind of in this one-off position where there was so much value in those top 3, maybe 4 guys every year that would give you a ton of leverage over your opponent in most weeks. We don't have that at all this year, right? I mean, we've got literally just as long as you've kind of got one of the top half of the league of tight ends, you can get 7 points or 8 points, and there's nobody that's really out there putting up 20. We've got some guys putting up 12, 15. Isaiah Likely seems to be in a position to have a breakout year. The Ravens being the best offense in football so far this year, at least in terms of yardage. But yeah, Brock's looking good. Trey McBride seems to be having his breakout year. But then, like you said, we've got Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki kind of off the trash heap, looking like viable candidates. Yeah, tight end barren landscape as usual, but that could shake up too as we get a little bit deeper into the season and some of these scouting reports on these young wide receivers come out and the NFL teams play them a little bit tighter. Quarterbacks will have to rely a little bit more on their tight ends.
Yeah. It's been wild, and the quarterback play has been down. Guys like Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, they're being outscored by kickers right now, which is wild for fantasy football, and everybody's got their opinions on that. The last thing, yeah, they sure do. The last thing, that's been, I don't know if this is a surprise or not this year, but some of the injuries that have come out early in the season. There's always injuries in fantasy, and it always wrecks you in week 1, week 2. I lived that last year, losing, 3 top people in the first 2 weeks. Maybe it was because I felt it all in a bundle on my team, and this year it feels like it's being spread out. But, the big thing with Christian McCaffrey coming out now is he doesn't have a timetable. You got guys like AJ Brown, who it's quiet, but then all of a sudden he'll probably be out 3 to 4 weeks. There were some bigger hits like Pacheco, a serious injury, is going to be out, several weeks with broken bones. But it's feeling like every team's getting hit a little bit here and there, and it's been somewhat quiet from the teams where all of a sudden you're hearing like, oh, now they're going to be out. They're going to PUP or they're going to IR for 4 weeks, kind of thing. It's not just like a little weak hammy and they're out for just a single game. Is this turning into the year of endurance, the year of depth in fantasy, or is this just it's week 1, week 2, and it'll calm
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of big hits, but I think that happens every year. I mean, you've mentioned Pacheco. There's also the Nakua injury, kind of right at the beginning of the year. Of course, a few healthy scratches. I think some coaches' decisions on some kind of depth pieces that may worry you a little bit as we're seeing maybe some of these rookie running backs, some that are still out there on waivers or were not even drafted this year, kind of pulling their way up that depth chart, and then some guys who we've always kind of stashed as those handcuffs, being healthy scratches early in the season, something to monitor. But no, not any more than any typical year. You've got to have depth at the position. You've got to be aware of these injuries and these injury reports, and not only hit that waiver wire if you do have a major IR type of injury, that is Pacheco, that is Nakua, that is Jordan Addison, that's these guys who are at least going to be sitting out for 4 weeks. I'm missing somebody. You might have to help me, but there's
Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp just went down.
There we go. Cooper Kupp, and who are going to be out for at least 4 weeks. Tua Tagovailoa, I think, is going to be out forever. There is certainly just a need, as usual, to be up on that waiver wire and keep your team in a place where you've got viable starters on a week-to-week basis.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see. Keep an eye on the news. See if any of your players get any kind of late scratches going into tomorrow. It could happen to you. It could happen to anybody. Just keep your eyes on it and make sure you get your roster set for the best possible roster. Unless you're John's Bussy and you're just trying to lose a game. I'm looking forward to good week 3 here.
Hell yeah, man. Can't wait to be tuned in and glued to the app tomorrow. Good show today. Say goodnight, Fermi.
Good night, Fermi.
Thank you for listening to the official podcast of the Public Honors College Fantasy Football League. Cum quickly, cum often, and cum loud.